The following video was recorded by a man who, for a while now, has been dealing with something he can't quite get a handle on inside his home. And the frustrating part isn't just what he claims to have seen, it's that the very cameras he set up to catch it keep failing him. He's got a small white cube-shaped security camera resting on top of a pink candle jar in his living room, and a second one elsewhere in the house, and according to him, neither will show him what they're supposed to be recording. When he tries to pull up the footage, he says all he gets is a black screen. So on this particular afternoon, with natural daylight pouring in through the window blinds, he decides to walk the room himself with a handheld camera and address a viewer's comment head-on. Someone who suggested the movement caught in a previous clip looked like it was pulled by a string. His black dog wanders alongside him the whole time, calm and unbothered. But then, around the 90-second mark, something makes him pause mid-sentence. Watch.
What you doing, Doogie? What you doing? You like, what you do? What you want? You so spoiled. You're so spoiled. Well, yeah, camera's not working. It just won't. Ugh. You're my good boy. You're my good boy. I'm tired. Yeah, I don't know what else to do, y'all. This camera's messed up, and that one over there, I don't even have it uncovered no more. That one won't connect either. Well, it'll connect, but it won't. When it says there's a video or motion, when I go to view the video, it's just a black screen, so I don't know what to I don't know. I don't know if I just seen that or not. We'll find out here shortly, I guess. Ready to connect. I just wanted to update y'all, let you know I'm working on these cameras. Here, let me hop off of here. I want to see this. I want to see if I'm tripping or not. Yeah, hold on.
He doesn't say what exactly caught his eye, only that he isn't sure if he just seen that or not. He walks straight toward the window, zooms in on the curtain rod and the top edge of the sheer fabric, and holds the shot there, the curtain completely still, nothing visibly attached, nothing moving. You decide whether that means the skeptics were right, or whether whatever he saw simply stopped before the camera got there. If something was there, it wasn't performing for anyone this time. In this next clip, a couple in their living room are just settling in for a quiet evening watching TV. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing to suggest anything strange is about to happen. The man is filming from the couch, his partner relaxed beside him, a cat wandering between them, a nature documentary playing in the background. Then he notices something. A ceiling lampshade in the middle of the room is swaying slowly on its own. Not a dramatic swing, just a persistent, gentle, circular motion that doesn't stop. He checks the windows himself. They're closed. Watch.
Alright, so we're just watching TV, and the lampshade's been moving on its own. We've no idea why. There's no window open, there's no reason why it should be moving, but it keeps moving. I have no idea why. So if someone can explain that to me. Oh, Rory wants to play with his elastic band. But there's no one in the room. There's no reason why it should be moving, but it keeps moving. See? Just trying to enjoy a Starbucks whilst watching David Attenborough, and this is happening.
Maybe like David Attenborough.
Also, for anyone wondering, there's no one over there. There's no one over there. You know, it's still moving. So, someone please explain that to me.
It's the consistency of it that gets under your skin, not a single sway that could be dismissed as a draft, but a continuous, steady movement that keeps going throughout the entire clip. His partner even jokes that maybe it doesn't like David Attenborough. But here's the thing, no heating vent, no fan, no open door is visible anywhere in that room. Some viewers think subtle structural vibrations from a nearby road or appliance could explain it. Others aren't so sure, pointing out that the cat on the coffee table keeps watching the window, as if it's tracking something the camera can't quite reach. So what do you think is moving it? Now in this next clip, a man is home alone late at night when something starts happening at his bedroom door that he can't explain. He films himself first, eyes wide, voice shaking, speaking directly into his phone in Spanish, telling his followers that he lives alone, that there's nobody else in the apartment, and that something is trying to open his door. You can hear the panic in his voice before the camera even turns around. Watch.
Amigo, estoy solo en mi casa y hay alguien que me quiere abrir la puerta. Estoy solo, vivo solo, chabón. Y se está abriendo la manija, es re turbio, mirá. ¿Quién está ahí? ¿Quién quiere abrir la puerta? ¿Quién está ahí?
The door handle moves up and down on its own, rhythmically, persistently, like someone on the other side is working it over and over. He shouts out asking who's there, gets no answer, then throws the door open and tears through the apartment, the hallway, the bathroom, a dark back room, and finds absolutely nothing. No one. The handle moving is one thing, but what makes this harder to dismiss is that the motion is mechanical, deliberate, the kind that requires a physical hand operating a lever. Some viewers think the whole thing was staged with a wire or a string rigged to the handle. Others aren't so sure, pointing out that the frantic search through the apartment reads as completely genuine panic, not performance. So what exactly was working that handle? You decide. In this next clip, security camera footage from the night of October 5th, 2017, captures something unusual, moving through what appears to be a long, narrow, institutional hallway, the kind of corridor that already feels uneasy even when nothing is happening. The timestamp reads 11 past 11 p.m. The hallway is empty, lit by overhead fluorescent light, and by all appearances, nothing should be moving through it at all. Then it starts. Watch. 4 times across the span of just over a minute, bright white orbs of light appear at the far end of the hall and travel rapidly toward the camera, dropping to the floor and vanishing before they reach it. The second light form moves in the opposite direction, shooting away down the corridor and disappearing. The fourth behaves differently still, darting erratically before shooting upward toward the ceiling. What's harder to explain is the timing of the third orb. It materializes almost immediately after a figure briefly crosses the far end of the hallway at around the 59-second mark, appearing in almost the exact same spot they just passed through. Some viewers immediately point to orbs as one of the most commonly reported forms of paranormal energy, believed by many in the ghost hunting community to represent spirits or conscious entities moving through a spy. Skeptics, on the other hand, argue that security camera footage is notorious for catching insects or airborne dust lit by IR sensors, which can produce fast-moving bright anomalies. But the behavior here, 4 separate appearances, different directions, different trajectories, and that timing near the figure makes the insect explanation harder to hold on to cleanly. So what do you think is moving through that hallway? In this next clip, a woman named Marissa has been dealing with something that's been getting progressively harder to explain away. Mysterious bruises, scratches, items disappearing from places she left them, and nights where she can't sleep at all, waking up at 3 a.m. or not sleeping at all. She's documented it before, and viewers from her previous videos have pointed out what they believe are letters visible in the scratches on her skin. But it's the physical injuries that really began to concern people, including a large, dark, raised welt on her stomach that was painful enough to send her to the hospital, where doctors couldn't identify what caused it or offer any explanation. The nurse noted her heartbeat was unusually fast, and she was running close to a fever. At this point, Marissa says she feels like whatever is in her bedroom is escalating, moving from unsettling to something that's actually affecting her body. She reaches a point where she decides to do something she'd been hesitant about. Use a Ouija board as a last resort, this time with a friend named Shanna. Watch closely.
Ready, News? Okay, so how do we do it? We say hello to the spirit or what?
Is there a spirit in this room?
Oh my god. Are you male or female?
That looks like an F to me.
That does look like an F.
Do you have a message for us? H E he L hell. Oh my god, please don't be hell.
Maybe it's like the devil.
Help.
Is it gonna
Help
say
with
something
what?
else? Like help what?
Maybe we should ask it something else. What do we ask it?
Is this room haunted?
Yes. Oh my god. Oh my god, do you hear that?
Yeah.
Sushi's scratching at the door. Ask it something else. Is anything bad gonna happen to me?
Are you moving it?
No, I'm not moving it.
Me neither.
I'm not moving it.
Well, I'm definitely not moving it.
Oh my god. I did not do that.
I didn't do that either. Oh my god, that's really scary. I want to stop playing.
We should say goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye, Ouija.
The session shifts from curious to genuinely unsettling almost immediately. When asked if there's a spirit in the room, the planchette slides to yes. When asked if the spirit is male or female, it moves to F. And when they ask for a message, it begins slowly spelling something out, H, E, L, and then the women start to panic, assuming it's spelling hell until the final letter lands on P. Help. That single word, spelled out letter by letter in a dark candlelit room, is the kind of thing that's hard to walk away from. Then the planchette gets knocked completely off the board, right after confirming that nothing bad is going to happen to Marissa, and both women immediately deny doing it. Their reactions, the gasping, the audible fear, the insistence that neither of them caused it, all feel spontaneous rather than staged. Skeptics would point to the ideomotor effect, a well-documented psychological phenomenon where people unconsciously move objects they're in contact with, including planchettes, without realizing they're doing it. Under that explanation, the word help could simply be the product of two frightened women's subconscious fears playing out through their fingertips. But that explanation doesn't quite account for the physical injuries Marissa described, the ones doctors at an actual hospital couldn't identify or explain. Some viewers familiar with demonology point out that the combination of physical marks appearing on someone's body, sleep disruption, and a spirit identifying itself as female through a board session follows a pattern they associate with attachment rather than a residual haunting, meaning whatever it is, according to that interpretation, isn't just lingering in the space, it's focused specifically on Marissa. Others think the scratches and bruises could still have mundane explanations, and that the Ouija session, whatever its cause, shouldn't be treated as confirmation of anything darker. If you've ever used a Ouija board, you probably already have an opinion on what you just watched. But the injuries, the ones with no diagnosis and no explanation, those are harder to file away. What caused them? And why does it keep getting worse? The board said nothing bad is going to happen to her. Whether that's reassuring or the most unsettling part of the whole session is something only Marissa can answer. In this next clip, a man is lying in bed filming his dark room on his phone, and what he catches sitting in the chair across from him has people seriously unsettled. The room is nearly pitch black, lit only by the faint glow of his screen, and from the moment the video starts, you can already hear how hard he's breathing. A figure is hunched over in a wooden-armed chair, dressed head to toe in black, with a balaclava completely covering its face, totally still. Not a single movement. He keeps the camera trained on it, hoping it stays that way. Watch.
I was on TikTok in my room when I heard something. I was hoping this fish shit didn't move.
The figure snaps upright and whips its head directly toward the camera in one sharp, unnatural movement, and his reaction is immediate panic. That jerk is what gets people. It's not slow, it's not gradual. It happens in an instant, the kind of speed that doesn't feel quite right for a person just waking up. Some think whoever, or whatever, was in that chair knew exactly when to move. Others aren't convinced it was a person at all. So what was sitting in his room? This next clip was filmed by a group exploring the Jesuitas Tacum, a wooded area in Santa Fe, Argentina, locally known as one of the old Jesuit forests, a place rumored to have once served as a cemetery, and one that carries a reputation for ritual activity that the cameraman, by his own admission, didn't entirely believe going in. He's filming on his phone at dusk, walking a dirt path deeper into the woods with a small group that includes another man in a white t-shirt, a woman in a black top, and 2 young children. Almost immediately, they find something on the ground near the base of a large tree, a dead black chicken, apparently sewn shut, the kind of thing left deliberately. The man in the white t-shirt picks it up at the cameraman's request, and what you see confirms this wasn't an animal that simply wandered off and died. The cameraman keeps pushing forward, narrating calmly, pointing out what he thinks might be old grave markers through the trees. Still skeptical, still filming. Watch.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenas noches. Aquí comenzamos un programa más. Bueno, acá en este canal de YouTube. Estamos en uno de los bosques de lo llamado jesuita, en uno de los bosques que, bueno, acá en la ciudad de Santa Fe de Capital, en Argentina precisamente. Se comenta de que hubo un cementerio en un tiempo. La verdad es que yo no creo mucho porque tengo 30 años recién y la verdad que no tengo noción de lo que pasó acá. Salimos en un recorrido hace un momento con la familia y bueno, ya que estamos, quise hacer la toma del video para corroborar si la verdad lo que dicen de este supuesto cementerio es cierto. Dice que a esta hora más o menos de la noche, ya son aproximadamente 7:30 de la tarde, se aparecen cosas, se escuchan cosas. Se ven, por ejemplo, acá hacen todo lo que hay gualichos. Acá pueden ver, pueden corroborar que hay un animal, miren, un animal muerto también, de los gualichos que se hacen acá en esta zona. ¿Lo puedes levantar, por favor? Sí. ¿Ve? Este animal lo sacamos ahora estamos viéndolo recién. Si ustedes aprecian ahí en el pecho, tiene una cosida, seguramente que en la cosida esa que tiene ahí estilo como algo quirúrgico. Acá dice que le ponen fotos, le ponen imágenes para hacer hechicería y esas cosas. Así que bueno, seguimos caminando, vamos a seguir viendo en el bosque. Se dice que se escuchan gritos, se escuchan llantos. La verdad es que no creo mucho yo, pero bueno, allá pueden apreciar de aquel lado están las tumbas. Se nota, se puede apreciar las tumbas de aquel lado. Pero bueno, vamos a ver de qué se trata. Se ven imágenes, Yo la verdad no creo nada, les vuelvo a repetir, yo no creo nada. Pero bueno, vamos a ver de qué se trata, vamos a ver qué onda. Así que bueno, vamos a ver de qué se trata. Ahí se puede ver allá atrás se puede apreciar, no sé si alcanza la toma de mi celular, porque mi celular es un celular muy bajo en resolución. Pero bueno, vamos a caminar a ver si podemos ver algo. Tenía también enterado de que tenía también en conocimiento de que no solamente se ven esas cosas, sino que se ven como brujas volando. Yo no creo en realidad en brujas, pero se ven cosas volando, así que bueno, no se ve nada. Así que lo que yo pensaba es cierto, no hay nada en estos lugares. Así que bueno, sigamos. Tamara. Sí. ¿Cómo era? ¿Jesuita? ¿Cuánto se llamaba esto?
Jesuita Tacum.
Jesuita Tacum. Ahí estamos con la familia caminando, recorriendo todo. Saludos, saludando. Mirá. No, esto de no creer, esto de no creer. Vamos. Corran. La verdad que no me lo podía esperar, no me lo esperaba. La verdad que no lo esperaba, pero acabamos de ver era como un duende, no sé qué, corriendo. Así que vamos a ahí se ve. La verdad que se mueve, está en movimiento. La verdad que Jesús de Nazaret. No, vamos, corran. Agárrale.
There are 2 things that happen in this clip that are hard to talk past. The first is the brief blue-green orb that appears beside a tree trunk around the 2-minute mark and vanishes within a second. Small, bright, and nothing like light catching a leaf or a lens flare. The second is what sends the entire group running. A tall, pale, thin, humanoid shape, standing between 2 trees in the low light, blurry and distant, but distinctly not a tree trunk. The cameraman himself calls it a duende, a term used across Latin American folklore to describe a small goblin-like figure, though what's visible here looks anything but small. Others in the comments pointed towards something connected to the gualichos, a word used in Argentine folk tradition to describe dark ritual workings or curses, suggesting whatever was left in that forest may have drawn something in. The children are in the frame when they run. That detail alone doesn't leave you easily. The following clip is about a man named Daniel Thompson, who occasionally returns to stay for a few days at the family home where he and his sister grew up. Recently, due to some accommodation issues, he's been staying there more often, and during those visits, he says he's begun noticing things in the house that he can't easily explain. According to Daniel, the strange feeling isn't entirely new. In fact, he believes something may have been present in that house since they were children. One reason he gives is his mother's unusual hobby. She has always been an avid collector, filling the house over the years with all kinds of strange antiques, dolls, puppets, and odd artifacts she picked up from flea markets, thrift stores, and estate sales. And one item in particular has always unsettled him, the dollhouse sitting in his sister's room. Daniel says that almost every time he walks past that room, he hears a faint knocking sound coming from inside. And for some reason, he's convinced the sound is coming from the dollhouse itself. Watch this. After hearing the knocking so many times, Daniel began wondering if one of the strange items his mother brought into the house years ago might have something attached to it. And considering how many eerie collectibles fill the rooms, it's not hard to see why the thought crossed his mind. In the next clip, you'll see some of the unusual items his mother has collected over the years. Take a look.
Okay, so the other thing that really creeps me out, that I do not like, but I will show you guys, is in my sister's old room, or I guess still room. Dollhouse. I don't know how to explain it. The only thing I can say that has happened with it is sometimes when I walk by, or like I go, the bathroom's back there, and I walk through and I hear like tapping coming from this room. It's like it's like yeah, it's like, I know it's coming from this room, and so I come in here and then it usually stops, except for like maybe 3 nights ago, like the tapping kept happening, and I came over and I was trying to figure out like where it was coming from, but it was coming from this dollhouse and I don't know where, and it hasn't done it since. Like, why is it so intricate? It's like... I don't know. Freaks me out. I'm not showing you guys this again, so take one last look. Yeah. Fuck that thing.
His mother has several old dolls, puppets, and handmade figures, some of which already look unsettling even before anything strange happens. But viewers watching the footage noticed something that Daniel didn't mention right away. Toward the end of the video, just before he says, "Freaks me out," many people claim they can hear what sounds like the faint voice of a young girl somewhere in the background. And then there were the comments about one particular doll, the red one in the beginning of the clip. Several viewers said the doll had what they described as bad juju written all over it, with others pointing out the puppet beside it also looked unusually sinister. But according to Daniel, those aren't even the creepiest dolls in the house. There was one they absolutely couldn't stand while growing up. Watch this. If you look closely at the doll wearing the blue shirt and purple pants, something odd happens. For a brief moment, its eyes appear to blink. It's subtle, but once you notice it, it's difficult to unsee. Still, the most convincing moment for Daniel came after he decided to move the dollhouse out of the room. Almost immediately, the knocking sound stopped. For a while, the house became completely quiet again. But then something else happened. The knocking started again, in the room where he had moved the dollhouse, and that alone was enough to make him uneasy. Eventually, Daniel decided to spend a night at a friend's house, just to get away from the place for a while. But while he was there, his phone rang. It was his mother asking if he was back home trying to scare her. Confused, he told her he was still at his friend's place, so she sent him a video recorded by the living room security camera. Watch this. In the footage, the living room appears completely empty, but after a few seconds, faint footsteps can be heard moving through the house. At first, she thought Daniel might be playing some kind of prank, but after confirming he wasn't home at all, the situation suddenly felt a lot more serious. For the first time, she started wondering if something else might actually be moving through the house, and if the sounds really were coming from whatever was inside that dollhouse, then moving it may not have solved the problem. It might have just moved the problem somewhere else. Until more updates come from Daniel and his family, all anyone can do for now is hope whatever is happening there doesn't get worse. In this next video, a team of paranormal investigators return to the Wheelhouse in London, a historic building dating all the way back to 1885. Today, the building operates as a pottery business, but according to local stories and previous investigations, the place may hold more than just clay and pottery wheels. During an earlier investigation, the team believed they had captured evidence suggesting a female spirit might be connected to the building, possibly dating back to the time of World War II. Wanting to learn more about who, or what, might still be present there, they decided to return for another night of investigation. Watch this.
The lady that wanders here that leaves the smell of a fragrance, a perfume. What was that, Phil? I heard knocking. Did you hear knocking?
I don't know.
It was as soon as I mentioned the lady.
While Phil, one of the investigators, is speaking about World War II and the history surrounding the area, something unusual happens. In the background, a faint whisper can be heard, quiet, but distinct enough that several viewers immediately noticed it. Listen closely.
Until after the war, when they decided that they were going to go back to what they knew best, and that was shop fitting. Now, one of the directors was a chap called George.
Hold on, Phil.
Until after the war, when they decided that they were going to go back to what they knew best, and that was shop fitting. Now, one of the directors was a chap called George.
Hold on, Phil.
In this part of the recording, a voice can be heard saying something that sounds like, "The Yankees are here." The phrase immediately caught the team's attention because during World War II, American soldiers, often referred to as Yankees, were stationed throughout parts of the United Kingdom. Some viewers believe the voice could be connected to someone who lived through that time, perhaps replaying a moment from the past when American troops arrived in the area. Trying to get more answers, the investigators continue attempting to communicate with whatever might be present in the building, and that's when this happens.
Well, last time we were here, this particular area we're sat in now, we heard quite a few noises. We heard the china being moved or knocked against. Could you do that again, perhaps on... What's that?
It's the REM pod going into alarm. The temperature's gone into alarm.
Oh, I heard a chink of something as well.
Yeah, I did. Somewhere behind you on the pottery again, Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Could you do that again for me, please?
Suddenly, the REM pod, a device used by investigators to detect electromagnetic disturbances, goes into alarm. According to the team, the device reacted at the same moment they felt a sudden drop in temperature in the room. Then, almost immediately afterward, a sharp sound echoes through the building, like a piece of pottery being struck or knocked over somewhere nearby. The investigators pause, waiting to see if anything else will happen. And before long, they hear something else. Watch this.
Do you want me to talk to you about the war, as you asked? If you do, could you knock maybe the pottery again or bang on the table?
Someone's walking.
I heard something then.
Just heard footsteps.
You can hear clear footsteps, as though someone is walking through the building. What makes the moment unsettling is that the investigators confirm they are completely alone inside the space. No other staff, no customers, no one else who could be walking around the pottery workshop. Yet the footsteps sound deliberate, like someone slowly moving across the floor nearby. Old buildings often carry strange sounds, shifting wood, echoing pipes, distant vibrations traveling through the structure. But moments like this still leave people wondering if something else might still be moving through places, long after the people who once lived there are gone. So was it echoes from the past, or a spirit tied to the building's wartime history. You decide. Now in this next video, a woman named Genevieve hears something that catches her attention late in the evening. From another room, she can hear her young daughter talking, not just babbling or playing, but clearly speaking as if she's having a conversation with someone. Curious and a little confused, Genevieve calls out to her daughter, asking who she's talking to. A moment later, the little girl begins walking out of the dark room toward her mother. But as she steps out, something else appears in the footage. Watch closely.
Lorelei, come here. Lorelei, who are you playing with? What are you doing?
At first glance, many people's first reaction is probably the same, a shadow. But when viewers started looking closer, several details made the situation far more unsettling. For one thing, the room behind the child is almost completely dark. There's no obvious light source inside the room that could project a shadow that clearly across the space. Yet the dark figure seems to move independently from the girl herself. And if you slow the footage down, the shape doesn't match her body. The child is only wearing a diaper and a small t-shirt, but the figure behind her appears to have something hanging behind its legs, almost like a robe or long piece of fabric trailing downward. Even stranger is the way it moves. Instead of stretching or bending like a normal shadow would, when projected onto a wall or floor, the shape walks upright, moving through the middle of the room as if it has depth, almost like a three-dimensional figure rather than a flat shadow. Some viewers also pointed out something else that's hard to ignore. The dark figure appears to move before the child moves. Normally, a shadow reacts to the movement of the person creating it. It follows their motion, delayed only by fractions of a second. But in this case, the dark form seems to step forward slightly ahead of the girl. Another strange detail is where it appears in the frame. Shadows usually need a surface to be projected onto, a wall, a floor, or another object. But this figure seems to pass across open space in the middle of the room before fading away, almost like something briefly walking beside the child. If Genevieve's daughter really was talking to someone in that dark room, maybe the camera briefly captured who or what she was talking to. But I'll leave you to be the judge on this one. The following video revolves around something that, at first glance, sounds impossible. A phone that keeps ringing even though it has no power connected to it. The phone has been sitting inside the house for years, an old landline model that the family kept mostly as a decoration after it stopped working. But recently, it started doing something strange. Watch this.
This haunted phone rings without power.
Out of nowhere, the phone begins ringing. Naturally, the first reaction was to pick it up and see who might be calling. But every time someone answered it, there was nothing on the other end of the line. No voice, no static, no sound at all, just silence. And the strange part is that the phone isn't even connected to an active power source. When the clip was first shared, many viewers were quick to offer a simple explanation. Some said it might be a recurring electrical spark somewhere in the wiring of the house, or perhaps leftover electricity briefly triggering the ringer. Wanting to rule that out, the owners actually opened the phone to inspect it, but inside, there was nothing that could realistically hold power long enough to make the phone ring repeatedly. No battery, no capacitor, large enough to store energy for more than a few seconds. And this wasn't a modern device either. The phone had reportedly been in the house since the 1970s. That detail made the situation even more unsettling for some viewers. Older landline phones are mechanical in nature, meaning the ringing sound usually requires a proper electrical signal traveling through the phone line. Without that signal, the bell simply shouldn't ring, which led some people to speculate about another possibility. Ringing phones are sometimes linked to what investigators call phantom calls, strange events where disconnected phones ring or pick up signals that can't easily be traced. Of course, there are still many possible explanations, from unusual wiring in the walls to interference coming from nearby lines. But when a phone that shouldn't have power suddenly starts ringing in the middle of a quiet house, it's hard not to wonder who or what might be trying to call. And the strangest part? Even after all the attempts to answer it, no one has ever been on the other end of the line. Now in this next video, a man named Nate, someone already recognized for the strange activity that has been happening inside his home, records something unsettling while visiting a cemetery for work. At first it was faint, like something shifting or moving somewhere between the rows of graves. Since he knew he was the only person there at the time, the noises immediately put him on edge. Watch this.
I heard you over there. I heard you moving around. Let me know you're here. Close that door. Yes, this is your cemetery, I know. I'm just trying to keep it nice for you. Keep it maintained and looking nice, out of respect. I'm not trying to So I'm hearing shuffling now. It sounded like it was behind the cement mixer. Fast footsteps or something that was back there. Clearly you can see there's nothing back there. So, not sure what that was. Gotta reach behind there. All right then. That, a rainy day up here. Gotta love it. I swear, anytime the weather's like this, weird shit happens. So let's hope today is not one of those days. There's that thing. Holy f***. Yeah, that's just great. Hell no!
The area around him seems quiet, but the sounds continue, almost like someone slowly moving nearby while staying just out of sight. Nate tries to brush it off and continues filming, but the uneasy feeling never really leaves. Later in the video, after it gets darker, something even more disturbing appears. If you look closely beside the window, there's a faint figure standing there. It's difficult to make out clearly, but the shape is just visible enough to resemble someone watching from the side. And there's another detail many viewers didn't notice the first time. Earlier in the video, before the scene near the window, a shadowy figure can be seen standing outside in the background. The shape is dark and still, blending into the surroundings, which is probably why it's so easy to miss at first. After seeing the footage, many viewers started connecting it to the strange experiences Nate has already shared from his home. The unexplained scratches he sometimes wakes up with, objects being thrown across rooms, and sharp items suddenly moving without explanation. Because of that, some people began wondering if whatever has been causing those disturbances might not be limited to his house. Maybe it followed him, or worse, maybe it started somewhere else entirely. Cemeteries have long been associated with stories of restless spirits and lingering energy, places where the line between the living and the dead is often believed to be thinner than usual. So the question many people asked after watching the video was simple. Did Nate unknowingly bring something back with him from the cemetery that night? Or had it already been with him long before he ever stepped foot there? Again, I'll leave you to be the judge. Chris had brought out a Ouija board the night before with his friend, hoping to finally get some kind of response after everything that had been happening around his house. But the plan fell flat, and the board stayed silent the entire time. Now he was home alone, trying to convince himself that the quiet meant things were settling down. But the house had that strange stillness that always made him feel like something was listening. He was sitting in the living room when a sudden knock echoed through the house, even though no one was at the door, followed by a soft tapping that seemed to come from the room he was in. Take a look.
A lot of you guys are gonna be mad at me, but me and my cousin broke this out. Messed with it last night.
Dad had sex on a Ouija board.
Oh boy. We did it the proper way, though. I know this is a kid's toy, but y'all don't understand the kind of shit y'all's getting into when y'all fuck with this. At least some people don't. I heard it, but I didn't see it. I still hear it. You can hear that, can't you? I can. Sound like tapping. Everybody's like, oh, it's the hutch. It's the hutch. Can you do it again? This is a selfie stick I taped to a tripod.
He stood up and looked around, expecting to find something obvious, but the room was empty and nothing moved except for the faint shift of shadows from the lamp. A whisper slipped through the air behind him, a quiet hello that he didn't even register at first because it sounded too close and too low to make sense. Before he could process the stillness, the camera stand beside him toppled over on its own, hitting the floor with a sudden clatter that made him jump. He picked it up and propped it back into place, trying to laugh it off, but the uneasy feeling lingered like whatever whispered at him was still standing right behind his shoulder. Chris was sitting in his living room later that night, with the TV playing softly beside him and his dog curled up at his feet, trying to enjoy the quiet, even though the house kept giving him that uneasy feeling again. The tapping started up just like before, faint and scattered, and then the door started to vibrate.
Stop chewing on me. I'm sorry, y'all. He's just playing. It may be loud on my phone. I don't know yet. But yeah, we're just chilling. And I swear, up and down, I could have swore the door was vibrating. It's a sliding door. Slides into the wall. There it goes. It's making me shake a little bit. I'm sorry. That scared the shit out of me. How do I turn this to the light?
While he stroked the dog, the door across the room began to vibrate like something on the other side was pushing against it. And this is the moment that he pulled out the camera and kept it aimed straight at the door. The door slid open just a little on its own, then slowly crept even farther, revealing a deeper patch of darkness behind it that made the room feel colder. After a few seconds, it opened all the way, swinging wide until the entire doorway was visible and completely empty. Not a single movement inside. Chris stood up with his dog watching closely, walked toward the room, and flipped the light on. The space was perfectly still, every corner untouched, literally not a soul in sight. The silence felt even heavier than before, like whatever opened the door had stepped back just out of reach the moment he crossed the threshold. We might see more of Chris in future videos. The hospital room looked totally ordinary on camera, just a standard space with a bed in the center, a chair pushed against the wall, a small table with folded blankets, and the usual equipment sitting quietly in standby. Nothing looked out of place, and the frame stayed steady for a while, showing a perfectly normal scene with no movement at all. Out of nowhere, a strange, uneven sound slipped into the audio, almost like a motor trying to start even though nothing in the room was supposed to be running, and the backrest of the bed began lifting on its own in small, awkward jumps. It kept rising higher, little by little, climbing at a slow, steady angle until it was nearly upright at 90 degrees, with no one near the controls and nothing touching it. The rest of the room stayed exactly the same, the chair still, the other equipment untouched, every corner frozen except for that single, impossible movement. When the noise finally stopped, the bed stayed locked in that upright position, leaving the room looking perfectly normal again, except for the one thing that clearly hadn't moved by itself. Sabia had a security camera set up in her kitchen in the Netherlands, just a regular feed showing the table and a few candles sitting untouched near the back wall. Everything looked calm for a while, nothing unusual happening at all except for a few soft orbs drifting across the screen, like dust catching the light. Then, without any movement around it, the candle suddenly sparked to life, a quick flash that turned into a steady flame, as if someone had just struck a match right beside it. Nothing else shifted in the room, no breeze touched the wick, and there was no one standing anywhere near it. The flame held perfectly still after forming, burning like it had been lit on purpose, even though Sabia knew the candle had been cold for hours. The rest of the kitchen stayed completely normal on camera, but the sudden light from the wick made the whole space feel different, like something unseen had stepped in just long enough to leave a mark, before disappearing again. A few nights later, Sabia checked another piece of security footage, this time from the sitting room, and the scene looked completely still at first, with the furniture exactly where it always stayed, and the time on the right showing it was practically midnight. The camera picked up a few drifting orbs crossing the frame like pale specks floating through the air, the same kind she had seen in the kitchen earlier, but nothing else seemed off until the corner of the room shifted. a chair that had been pushed neatly into the corner slid forward on its own, moving in one smooth line across the floor, even though no one was near it. More orbs drifted by in clusters right after, almost like the movement stirred something up, and then the painting on the wall began tilting slowly side to side as if an invisible hand was nudging it. The rest of the room stayed perfectly quiet. No shadows moving, no lights flickering, just the chair out of place and the painting swaying gently before settling back into place. Watching it all unfold at midnight made the sitting room feel less like a normal part of the house and more like another spot where something unseen was making itself known piece by piece. Who knows if it continued, because this is the last we heard from Sabia. In the following video, Stephen was washing dishes with the usual evening noises in the background, the sink running, the faint hum of the fridge, and nothing out of the ordinary until something suddenly tapped hard against the middle of his back and bounced onto the floor behind him. The sound made him jerk around with that instant confusion where your brain tries to catch up to what your body already felt, and he had no idea what could have hit him because he knew no one else was supposed to be that close.
Dude, I'm a little wigged out right now. So I was washing dishes and just putting things away, and all of a sudden I feel something hit me in the back and I heard it bounce. Look at this shit. And this ball hits me in the back right shoulder out of nowhere. And what's even crazier is look where Avery's at. Now mind you, I just got done washing the air fryer and was drying it off. Whatever it was had a little bit of force. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Lauren's been in bed for almost 2 days. Like, she gets up for a little bit, but she has not felt good at all. And Avery, let's just face it, if he's not watching his tablet, he's on the Oculus or he's outside. And I knew with it being like 12 o'clock, he's inside. So I have no idea. Now I have a lot of activity. It's not like malicious or anything, but that right there was the first time that's happened. So I don't know, what do y'all think about it?
When he cut to the CCTV footage, the camera clearly showed a small ball shooting across the room and hitting him square in the back before dropping to the floor, and the look on his face as he turned around said everything about how unexpected it was. He switched the feed over to another part of the house where his son Avery was sitting in plain view, completely occupied and nowhere near the kitchen, just to make it absolutely clear it couldn't have been him messing around. The replay showed no one behind Stephen, no shadows moving, no sign of any trick, just the ball launching on its own and hitting him like it had been tossed by someone he couldn't see. Elysia was alone at her storage unit in the middle of the day, filming down the long, narrow corridor that always felt eerie, but she never really questioned it. The overhead lights buzzed softly, reflecting off the rows of identical metal doors, while her voice echoed down as she told us about what was happening. She wasn't expecting anything at all until she started filming, just checking on a few things she had stored away, when something at the very end of the hallway caught her attention.
I'm over here at the storage, and I don't know if it's me, but y'all tell me I don't see that. Oh no. I don't know if it's just a fan like going in and out, but the is that? Duh. I don't. Maybe I'm bugging. No, I know y'all just see that, right? Oh!
A dark shape peeked out from the corner, a black blob leaning just far enough around the wall for its outline to show before sliding back out of sight again. She kept filming, trying to convince herself it was a trick of the light, but the shape returned a second later, then slipped away, then peeked again like it was deliberately watching her from the far end of the corridor. Nothing else in the hallway moved, no doors rattled, no shadows shifted, except for that one shape darting back and forth behind the last wall. The emptiness made the whole place feel colder, and the repeated movements left her with the awful sense that whatever was hiding around that corner wasn't trying to avoid her at all, but was studying her from a distance she couldn't close. In the follow-up clip, Elysia returned to the storage facility in the daytime, hoping the daylight would make the place feel less threatening. But the moment she stepped inside, she realized it didn't help at all. The entire corridor was pitch dark, even though the building should have been fully lit during business hours. She was the only customer there, with only a couple of staff somewhere in the front office, so she decided to walk in anyway.
Alright, y'all. I'm finally back at this place. And you know, I'm in the process of moving in and out. Right now, and nobody here. Like, listen. If I see something again, I'm definitely reporting to the manager to put up that video, because I'm not playing. There's one car over there, but I'm just gonna see, because right now, everything's dark. Like, inside there, I don't know if you can see it, but it's dark. Like, look how scary that shit is, bro. This is why I hate doing this shit, but I got no choice. Just here. See, like, I know when you go in, it censors somebody that's here. Oh, fuck. So, see, that's that shit that be scary. And, like, I'm on the second floor. Okay. I know that this lady probably lives here or she does her business here, but she's here every single day, nonstop. If that chair's not there, she's not here. If the chair's there, she's there. And yeah, so I don't know if she lives there or does her little business there. What is that? Yeah, anyways, yeah, I don't know. Alright. Listen, see, this is my storage. And I'm honestly, I'm like acting like you guys are human, or bitch, I might be living here tonight. No. Oh my. I'm not doing this. And there's no way There's no way I'm in the fucking storage stuck in this shit. Hello! Oh my god.
As soon as she crossed the motion sensor, the overhead lights flickered on one by one, illuminating the long hallway in a way that instantly reminded her of the last video. She went upstairs to the second floor, unlocked her storage unit, and began recording inside while she rearranged a few items. Out of nowhere, the sound of something sliding echoed from directly outside the unit. A long, dragging noise like metal or plastic scraping across the floor. Elysia froze, staring toward the open doorway before rushing forward and pulling the metal shutter down as fast as she could, trapping herself safely inside so whatever had caused the noise couldn't get in. She waited quietly, breathing hard, but the sliding sound didn't repeat. Later that day, staff reviewed the CCTV for her, and the cameras confirmed it. Nobody else had entered that floor at all during the time she was there, making the situation far more unnerving than she wanted to believe. In this next clip, a guy heads back to his studio late at night after realizing he forgot his phone charger, expecting nothing more than a quick trip in and out. The kind of small inconvenience you don't think twice about, especially in a place you're familiar with. But the moment he gets to the entrance, something feels off. Watch closely.
Buenas noches, amigos. Oigan, miren, vine aquí al local porque se me olvidó mi cargador. Y ahorita que venía aquí casi por el bote de basura, oí que patearon la puerta. Y me puse a grabar, pero empecé a notar en la persiana que se movía. Miren, parece que se oye como se mueve la persiana, o sea, cómo cruje. Entonces ese polvo es polvo de la calle. Es que es una calle de pues es de tierra. Miren. ¿Qué les dije? ¿Qué les dije a la verga? Miren, voy a entrar. Miren, para que vean que no hay nadie adentro. Todo en una toma. Ay, perdón con mis 20,000 vueltas, pero es una llave de seguridad. Miren. O sea, no ha salido nadie, miren. Voy a entrar. Voy a cerrar la puerta rápido. Miren. Voy a prender aquí la luz. Y miren. No hay nadie. Para que no digan que sí, que hay alguien adentro, no sé qué tanto. Ay, güey. Bueno. Ay, es que eso de la persiana sí lo había escuchado saliendo de aquí del local, pero la verdad no le ponía mucha atención. Miren, tuve que cambiar un poco las cosas del lugar porque cada año, pues, acomodar todo, ¿no? Pues me voy a asomar al baño para que vean que no hay nadie. Oye, ¿cómo está la puerta? Me traje el espejo aquí al baño. Miren, voy a cerrar otra la puerta para que vean que no pasa nadie. Me traje el espejo aquí al baño porque estoy remodelando, estoy reacomodando todo. Miren, no hay nadie. Miren, miren. Que no digan que hay alguien escondido. Miren, yo estoy dentro del baño, no hay nadie. No hay nadie. Miren. Ok, miren. Voy a estar grabando así, que vean que no va a salir nadie. Miren. O sea, la puerta no se ha oído, no se ve nadie. No digan de que hay alguien en el baño. Miren, el espejo lo tuve que acomodar, está aquí colgado porque es un poquito más cómodo. Miren, está en pijama ya andaba. Noches con la misma pijama. Pero si quieren regalarme una, estaré hecha. Uy, güey. Ay, cabrón, patí la pinche silla. Dicen que por qué no prendo la luz luego, que porque esto no sé qué. No mames. A ver, explíquenme eso. No se ha ido la puerta, no se ha ido nada. Se cerró la puerta, se abrió la persiana. A ver, explíquenlo. Desde que volví a traer el espejo al baño, la verdad es diferente el miedo. Cuando estaban juntos era un poquito más relajado. No sé, pasaba algo. Pero estando aquí en el baño, como que le gustó más el frío. Porque este baño es muy frío porque tiene mucho azulejo. No, ya, miren, voy a apagar, voy a cerrar porque sí, la verdad, está un poquito feo esto. Que yo venía por el cargador y no, ya mejor yo ya me voy. No, bueno, pues, buenas noches amigos, pero vean, para que no digan que hay gente adentro, de que yo, se ve muy falso, no sé, no, si no quieren creer, no crean, la verdad. Pero desde que empecé a poner ay, se acabó la pila. Bueno, los dejo, amigos, porque ya se me va a terminar la batería. Buenas noches.
According to him, things in the studio haven't felt right ever since he moved an old mirror into the bathroom. Not long after bringing it in, subtle changes began to happen, the kind that are easy to dismiss at first, but harder to ignore when they keep repeating. Objects weren't where he left them. Sounds started echoing through the space at odd times, and there was this constant feeling like he wasn't alone, even when he knew he should be. Mirrors, for a long time, have been surrounded by theories and beliefs, often described as reflective surfaces that do more than just show an image, sometimes thought to act as doorways, or at the very least, something that can hold or attract energy. Whether that's true or not, it adds a layer to what he's experiencing. But that's not the only detail that stood out. Viewers quickly pointed out something else inside the studio, a doll, and that shifted the conversation. Because instead of the mirror being the sole cause, some began to speculate that it might have only triggered something that was already there, something tied to that object, something that may have already had a presence in the space long before the mirror was even introduced. So now the question becomes, is the mirror a doorway? Is the doll a vessel? Or is there something else entirely connected to that studio that's only now beginning to reveal itself? I'll leave that up to you to decide. This next footage dates back to 2010, when a group of investigators carried out what they described as their first official investigation of the Del Mar Fairgrounds, a location known not just for events and crowds, but also for the stories that seem to linger long after everything goes quiet. Over the years, there have been rumors surrounding the fairgrounds, reports of shadowy figures moving in the distance after closing hours, unexplained noises echoing through empty structures, and the unsettling feeling among some staff and visitors that certain areas don't feel entirely empty, even when they should be. Some believe the history of the land itself, combined with decades of activity, may have left behind something that hasn't fully faded. During their investigation, the team set up multiple cameras across different sections of the property, hoping to capture anything unusual that might occur when the area was completely still. And one of those cameras picked up something. Watch. On the left side of the screen, a dark mass can be seen forming, then moving toward the right before suddenly disappearing. Moments like this are exactly what fuel the rumors surrounding places like this, because they align with what people have been describing for years. Brief, shadow-like figures that don't stay long enough to fully understand, but appear just enough to leave an impression. Whether it's something tied to the history of the grounds or simply an unexplained visual anomaly is still up for debate. But captures like this continue to keep those stories alive. And even today, this place still carries its mystery. Now in this next clip, a woman shares what life has been like for her and her family living on an old property, an 1800s farmhouse set far away from neighbors, surrounded by open land and silence that at times feels a little too heavy. From the beginning, things didn't feel right. Doors would slam without warning. Footsteps could be heard moving through the house when no one else was around. And almost every single morning, she would wake up to find things knocked over, objects scattered across the floor, like something had been moving through the house overnight. At one point, their CCTV even picked up the sound of footsteps, but no one was there. Another time, their doorbell rang, but when they checked, there was no one in sight. Then it got worse. Even the dogs started reacting. Watch. When your dog wakes you up in the middle of the night, staring into empty corners, slowly backing away like something is standing right there, it's hard to ignore. And in a place this isolated, hearing what sounds like voices in the distance, voices you can't trace to anyone nearby, is enough to make anyone uneasy. On another night, it wasn't voices or the dogs reacting, it was something else. Watch. At the time, she tried to brush it off, telling herself it could just be the house settling, old wood, shifting, something explainable. Especially since the dogs didn't react, she convinced herself it wasn't worth worrying about. But the next day, while her husband was out walking the dogs, this happened. Watch.
See, and you think I'm crazy. The first time I'm here by myself, there's a picture on the floor, and it just...
A door slams shut, hard, not slowly, but with force, like something wanted it closed. And that's where the pattern becomes harder to ignore, because it doesn't feel random anymore. It feels timed, like whatever is there chooses its moments, sometimes subtle, sometimes impossible to overlook. But the most telling moment might be this. The camera in the kitchen captures something that could explain why she keeps waking up to find things on the floor. Watch.
Okay, every single morning, these are on the floor. Every single morning. So I'm gonna hook up my computer and see if I catch anything tonight. Maybe it's just rodents, but we're gonna find out.
A book moves on its own, not nudged by anything in frame, but shifting just enough before dropping, as if something interacted with it directly. Some would say this points to a presence that has become comfortable in the space, something that isn't just passing through, but staying, moving, and possibly reacting to the people living there. Others might still look for logical explanations, old structures, shifting foundations, environmental factors, but moments like these make that harder to fully rely on. And as long as these events continue without a clear answer, what's happening inside that farmhouse remains unexplained. In the following video, it highlights something that's far more unsettling than a single strange incident. The kind of experience that repeats itself so often, so consistently, that it slowly wears you down. Because no matter how many times it happens, you still can't find a clear cause for it. Imagine waking up every single morning to the same thing, the same sound, same activity, and no explanation. Because that's exactly what this man has been dealing with. Watch. A loud, aggressive banging sound, the kind of sound that immediately puts you on edge, like someone is hitting the door with intent, demanding attention, refusing to be ignored. Now imagine having to get up, walk through your house, heart racing, bracing yourself for who might be on the other side, only to open the door and find nothing. That's what makes this so difficult to shake off, because it's not just the sound itself, it's the repetition, the consistency, the way it follows a pattern without ever revealing its source. He still hasn't figured out what's behind it, but what would you think if this was happening in your house? There have been countless cases where people later discover that they weren't alone in their own homes. Stories where, after weeks or even months, it turns out someone else had been living in the same space, hiding in areas no one thought to check. And that alone is terrifying, because when it's human, it means someone has been watching, moving quietly, existing just out of sight. But when it's not, that's a different kind of fear entirely. Because at least with a person, there's an explanation, there's a motive, there's something you can eventually understand. But when there isn't, it leaves something far worse behind. In this case, a man begins to feel like something isn't right in his home. Subtle signs, small inconsistencies, the kind you can almost ignore until they start to build into something you can't shake off. So one morning, instead of relying on what he might miss with his own eyes, he decides to record everything, moving through his house with his phone, documenting as he goes. Watch. Behind the curtain, something appears. A figure, brief, but clear enough to stand out, and then, almost as if reacting to being seen, it's gone. But what makes this even more unsettling is what happens next. Around the same area, you can see flies moving around. Sudden appearances of insects, especially flies, are often associated with decay, disturbance, or the presence of something negative. In real-world situations, flies are drawn to decay, to something breaking down, something no longer living. And that's where some of the darker interpretations begin. Because if a figure appears in a space, disappears, and is immediately followed by flies gathering in that exact spot, some believe it could suggest something far more disturbing than a simple presence. Not just something passing through, but something tied to death. There are viewers who believe moments like this hint at the possibility that whatever was seen isn't just an entity, but something connected to a past event, something that may have happened in that very area and was never fully uncovered. Of course, skeptics argue it's all staged, but you be the judge. The following video was recorded by paranormal investigator Frank, the creator behind Franco TV, a channel widely known for his solo overnight explorations of abandoned locations most people refuse to enter, places with violent histories, forgotten tragedies, and reports so disturbing that even experienced investigators often avoid returning alone. Yet Frank has built his reputation on confronting these places directly, documenting whatever might still be lingering in the darkness. This time, he returns to a monastery he had investigated once before, a place long surrounded by unsettling rumors, where locals claim former monks practiced rituals that went far beyond prayer, and where some believe certain areas were permanently sealed off after unexplained incidents involving members of the clergy who reportedly began hearing voices, seeing figures, and behaving in ways no one could explain. And ever since its abandonment, people who pass near the structure at night have reported the overwhelming feeling of being watched, as if something inside never truly left. Just seconds after arriving, Frank immediately captures something deeply unsettling. Watch.
This is where I was seeing things coming out of here. I just got a sound. That's where my car is. Oh. I just heard something over here. I feel so vulnerable right now. Oh God, it is so cold. Next time I come out here again, I'm gonna have to layer up.
In the darkness, what appears to be a pair of eyes reflects, like something was watching him. And even when he went into the monastery to escape whoever or whatever was watching him, something else happened.
What the hell is that? Oh my God. It's like right there. It's coming from inside here. For sure, it's definitely coming in here. Hola? I have to ask. What if there's somebody in here? The chair's still there in the middle.
Heavy bangs like footsteps carrying weight, the kind of sound that suggests something solid, something physical, moving somewhere, just out of sight. And as Frank searches the area, expecting to find a person, an animal, or at least some logical explanation, he finds nothing. Some believe this could be residual energy, the kind said to replay past movements in places where intense emotional or spiritual events occurred repeatedly over time, while others believe this is something far more aware, something intelligent, something that recognized his presence the moment he arrived and chose not to remain hidden. Because in locations like this, investigators often say the most terrifying moments aren't when you see something clearly. It's when you hear something that should not be there and realize it knows exactly where you are. This next video was recorded during a paranormal investigation in a small town in Jalisco, Mexico, at an old hacienda currently undergoing renovation, a property that, according to locals, carries a history far darker than its crumbling walls suggest, with rumors stretching back generations about buried money hidden somewhere on the land, valuables supposedly concealed during times of conflict, and even more disturbing claims that human remains were discovered on the property years ago, though no one seems to agree on how they got there or who they belonged to. One local resident who grew up near the hacienda described experiences that still unsettle him to this day, especially involving the main staircase, where he would hear slow, deliberate footsteps climbing upward, step by step, as if someone was making their way to the second floor, only for the sound to suddenly stop midway, leaving nothing there when he went to check. No person, no animal, just silence, and a heavy feeling that he was no longer alone. When the investigators arrived, they carefully explored the property, documenting each room, each hallway, each corner where something might be hiding. But for hours, nothing significant happened, and despite the oppressive atmosphere and the constant sense of being watched, there was no clear evidence of movement or presence. and eventually, believing the night would end without incident, they began preparing to leave. But just as they were about to go, something changed. Watch.
Una que está aquí y que es la que se ha manifestado. Esta oración fue para ti y para todas las demás entidades que se encuentran aquí. Yo creo que es momento de retirarnos porque... ¡Ay, no mames, no mames, no mames! ¡Ay, güey! ¡No mames, yo vi algo! Vamos, ven. Algo se asomó aquí. Ven, por favor, algo. Córrele. ¡Ay! No mames, ¿qué hay aquí? Córrele, Meli, ven. Ay, no mames. Es que yo aquí vi que se asomó algo, te lo juro. Ay, ¿quién anda aquí? Yo ya no sé. De verdad. No hay nada. Ay. No, vámonos ya. Vámonos con cuidado. Es momento de irnos. Con cuidado. Ay, no. Yo ya quiero salir de aquí, vámonos. Ya no podemos quedarnos más, de verdad, es momento de irnos. Qué terrible lugar, un lugar lleno de energía, una energía muy fuerte la que está aquí encerrada y lamentablemente no podemos hacer nada. Ya hicimos una oración, vamos saliendo. Ya hicimos una oración, pero no hay nada más por hacer, porque yo vengo sin un experto.
From behind the truck, something briefly peeks out, a shape that appears and disappears too quickly to fully identify, followed by something even more disturbing, a faint voice, weak, strained and emotional, sounding almost like someone crying out for help. Some believe this could be the spirit of someone connected to the remains found on the property, possibly someone who died there and was never properly laid to rest, their presence lingering, unable to move on, trapped between worlds and trying to be heard, while others believe the rumors of buried money may be connected, that if something valuable was hidden there long ago, it may have been guarded, and whoever was responsible may never have truly left. There are also those who believe something darker may exist in places like this. Not a trapped soul, but something that imitates distress, something that calls out in human voices to lure the living closer, feeding on curiosity and fear. But until more evidence surfaces, what was hiding behind that truck, and who or what cried out into the darkness, remains a mystery. Now, in this next clip, a man named Samuel, who works at ESTE Villahermosa Hospital, captured a disturbing incident after months of staff, quietly complaining that strange and unexplainable things had been happening throughout the building. Hospitals, especially those that operate overnight, are often at the center of paranormal claims, not necessarily because of the building itself, but because of what they represent. According to Samuel, co-workers had reported hearing footsteps in empty corridors, equipment shifting when no one was present, and doors opening slightly on their own during the early hours of the morning, especially between 3 and 4 a.m., a time many refer to as the dead hour, when activity is believed to be at its peak. One night around 3:30 a.m., while working his shift, Samuel heard noises coming from the sample collection area. At first, he assumed it might be another staff member finishing late work, but when the sounds continued, he decided to investigate and record. Watch.
Compañeros, hago este video porque estaba escuchando ruidos aquí atrás. Son las 3:25 de la mañana. No veo nada. Miren. Acaban de ver eso. Se acaba de caer un bote. Se está moviendo esto. No veo nada. No hay nadie por acá. No hay nadie por acá. A la una. Miren. Se movió esto. Ahorita que venía caminando por acá y no veo a nadie. Miren cómo se mueve eso.
Para que vean que no hay nadie aquí.
Objects can be seen moving and falling off on their own. Some viewers believe the movement resembles the behavior of a child. The way the trolley shifts, the way objects are disturbed, it doesn't seem violent, but curious, almost like something small, interacting with its surroundings without understanding the consequences. But what happened next made the situation even harder to dismiss. Samuel later reviewed the hospital's security camera footage, hoping to find a logical explanation. Instead, he captured something else. Watch. If you look closely, something appears to move toward one of the wards. Moments later, a door opens, like something entered the room. It appears small, so many believe the child's speculation might just be right. But until more footage emerges, and until someone finds a clear explanation, whatever Samuel captured that night remains unexplained. In the following videos, a group of explorers set out to investigate an abandoned house that had been sitting empty for years, its broken windows and rotting walls silently holding whatever history had been left behind. They moved cautiously from room to room, documenting everything, opening doors, checking closets, and shining their flashlights into corners where the darkness seemed unusually thick. But there was one particular room they couldn't access because the door was locked. They tried the handle repeatedly, pushing, pulling, even listening closely to hear if something was moving on the other side, but it wouldn't budge. Eventually, with no way in, they gave up and left cameras behind to monitor the house while they were gone, hoping to capture out evidence of whatever might be inside. This is what the camera caught. An object inside the room suddenly falls over. What makes this moment disturbing is how it was positioned. It wasn't hanging off an edge or placed somewhere unstable. It appeared balanced and undisturbed for hours, and yet it fell without any visible force acting on it. It was as if something invisible had decided to move it. More than a year passed before another investigator named Meguro, along with his partner Kawasaki, decided to return to the same abandoned house. By then, the location had developed a reputation among explorers, many refusing to enter it at all. But Meguro wanted answers. They set up night vision cameras throughout the building and made the risky decision to stay overnight inside. But the night quickly turned into something neither of them expected. Watch.
Kasaka. Kasaka. Kasaka.
目黒さん目黒さん
华仔君。
Meguro tries again and again, pushing harder each time, and soon starts getting an overwhelming sensation, one he later describes as being watched from the other side. And then there's the chair, a single chair that wasn't there earlier, but at the time, what was important was opening the door. After several tense moments, the door finally opened, and Meguro later describes the moment as something he will never forget. Watch.
Hoa Thái Cường. Hoa Thái Cường.
People familiar with the building later came forward with disturbing claims. According to them, that particular room is believed to house an entity, one that doesn't simply haunt the space, but watches, waits, and searches for something far more disturbing. A vessel. Some believe entities tied to locations grow weaker over time unless they attach themselves to something living, something capable of carrying them beyond the place they're trapped. Meguro and Kawasaki later warned others to never enter that room again, and after seeing what happened that night, it's not hard to understand why. This next video shows Amanda Sanders, a woman who says the activity inside her home has been escalating in ways she can no longer ignore. At first, the strange things only happened occasionally, subtle enough that she could convince herself there was a logical explanation. But recently, everything changed, and the disturbances are no longer confined to the middle of the night. They're happening in broad daylight, while she's fully awake, fully aware, and unable to dismiss them. What makes this even more unsettling is her dogs. According to Amanda, her dogs have been behaving in ways she's never seen before. They refuse to enter certain rooms. They hide under the bed for hours. Sometimes, they stare into empty spaces and quietly whimper, as if reacting to something invisible standing right in front of them. Sensing something wasn't right, Amanda began recording more often, hoping to capture proof. And during one of those recordings, this happened. Watch.
Alright guys, it's me and Pops right now. It's starting to happen again. I wanted to catch it. My old man's at work. Nothing, nobody is in here. Like, what? Alright guys, I'm gonna show you. Let me see if I can get my damn. And there's no way out of my house. This is the only door. This door and my back door, which is back there. Fuck, I don't know how to get a flat, or, hold on. Guys, I'm just have to come in here and turn the light on. Okay. So I just want to find the damn light. Hold on, guys. Prove no one is in here. Like, what the is going on? No one's in here, right? Shower. Open the shower and show you. Bathroom. No one's. Oh, shit. The door just slammed shut again. What was it, Tootsie? What is it, Toot Toot? Something slammed the door on you, buddy? Come here. Where you going? Okay. Anyway, this is a closet. I can't even open the door on that side. I need it open. Hold on. This is my closet. Please excuse my Vern, are you fucking with that door? Oh my god. What the f, dude? I don't know. Nothing. Oh, let me go back here to this closet and show you. Ain't nobody in here. That's a bunch of bags. There's nothing in here. Let me open this. What the fuck? No one here, guys. Just me and Pops. What the f? And the dogs, obviously. Hey, Daisy. What's going on, crazy? Woo!
In the middle of the video, a door suddenly slams shut with force. Moments like this have left her feeling exposed in her own home, unsure whether she's being watched, followed, or something worse. In paranormal cases, escalation during daylight hours is often considered more serious, because it suggests whatever is present no longer needs darkness to operate. And then there's the dogs. Many believe animals don't hide unless they feel threatened. Their instinct is survival. If they're hiding under the bed, refusing to move, it could mean they're trying to escape something they can sense but can't fight. Amanda says she's now considering blessing the home, hoping it might calm whatever is inside or remove it completely. But opinions are divided. Some believe blessing a home can help cleanse negative energy and restore peace, especially if the presence is weak or recently attached. Others warn that attempts to cleanse a space without fully understanding what's there can sometimes provoke more activity, especially if whatever is present resists being removed. There's also the unsettling possibility that the presence isn't tied to the house at all, but to Amanda herself. Until she takes the next step and shares what happens after the blessing, this remains unsolved. This next video shows a disturbing series of unexplained events experienced by a man inside his own home. Events that didn't begin suddenly, but built up slowly over time until they became impossible to ignore. It started with small things, objects not being where he left them, faint knocking sounds coming from empty rooms, and moments where his dog would suddenly stop, stare at nothing, and quietly back away like it sensed something standing there. At first, he tried to ignore it, convincing himself it was just the house settling, or his imagination playing tricks on him. But that changed the day he caught this on camera. Watch.
This is camera recording. Huh. That's oh, Jesus. Dude.
The mirror that had been placed securely against the wall suddenly falls on its own, but things didn't stop there. Another time, he captured something even more direct. The door suddenly closes with force. If it wasn't wind and no one else was inside, then the question becomes unavoidable. What closed it? By this point, he was no longer brushing it off. He knew something wasn't right. Then one afternoon, shortly after arriving home, he heard loud banging noises coming from inside. Instead of ignoring it, he immediately set up his camera. Watch this.
Banging noises in here. So that's why I'm setting up the camera right now to find out, what the fuck it is. Max, shut up. Everybody here. That was up against the wall.
A shadow appears on the wall, and though he couldn't capture it on camera, the reaction of the dog is enough to know something or someone was definitely there. Still, nothing prepared him for what came next. One night while he was asleep, his phone somehow took selfies. Not one, but multiple. Watch him out.
Didn't take the picture because it was taken from the end of my bed. One of them, at least. The other one was like next to me. But also, in those pictures, the first one, sorry. In the first one, there was like another face next to my wife's face. And I was thinking maybe it was like a reflection of my face, but how in the is there going to be a reflection of my face on the pillow? Then on the other one, the other picture, I think my eyes are open. I don't know. I zoomed in. It doesn't look like my eyes are open, but it looks like something's on my eyes. And my hand looks very long. Yeah.
Some believe this could be a camera glitch, a trick of lighting or motion distortion, but others believe something far more disturbing. There's a theory in paranormal cases that entities can manipulate electronics, especially cameras and phones, to capture their presence. Some believe they can even interact with people while they sleep, appearing close enough to be captured without being seen. And if that's true, it would mean whatever is inside his home isn't just moving objects. It's getting closer, until more footage is captured, and until he finds out what's truly behind these events. One terrifying question remains. Is this something attached to the house, or something attached to him? You decide. The following clip was recorded on the night of November 5th of 2023. Just before 8 p.m., a driver was moving along a dark rural highway in Thailand. One of those long, straight stretches where your eyes settle into the rhythm of the road and you stop, really looking. The dash cam was running, as it always does, capturing nothing out of the ordinary, just headlights and open road. And for 16 seconds, that's exactly all it was, until he saw something strange. Watch. The headlights catch something walking, a pale, humanoid figure, contorted in a way that doesn't look right. But what makes this footage so unsettling isn't just the sighting itself, it's the fact that the driver didn't see any trace of it in his rearview mirror. And this is the most difficult part to explain, because if what he saw had been a person, or even an animal, caught in the headlights, there should have been at least a brief continuation of motion behind the vehicle, something to confirm its physical presence in that space. Yet instead, it disappears in a way that feels abrupt and unnatural. Some viewers, particularly those familiar with Southeast Asian folklore, have pointed toward the idea of road spirits, entities believed in parts of Thai tradition to appear along isolated highways, especially at night, often manifesting suddenly in front of travelers, sometimes in distorted or unsettling forms, with the intention of startling them, confusing them, or in some accounts, even luring them into dangerous situations. With no clear explanation, no follow-up that confirms what was actually on that road that night, and no evidence that fully resolves what the driver experienced, the footage remains one of those moments that sits uncomfortably between logic and the unknown, still unexplained. This next video is about a man who has been documenting a series of increasingly disturbing events inside his house. Incidents that don't stay isolated, but seem to build on each other, each one pushing the situation further into something far more difficult to explain or ignore. At around 10 p.m., he's inside his home when he notices something unusual. His duffel bag shifting slightly, the kind of movement you might first attribute to a rodent trapped inside, something small trying to find a way out. And at that point, it still feels like something that can be explained. But then this happens. Watch. A pale hand comes out of the bag, but when he unzips it, he finds nothing but folded fabric inside. No animal, no person, no explanation. That alone would be enough to rattle most people, but whatever was happening in that house wasn't finished. Watch. When he opens the door, there's someone there, but inside of the closet there is nothing but clothes. Some would call this classic poltergeist behavior. The term comes from the German words for noisy ghost, and in paranormal tradition, it describes a type of entity associated with violent physical disturbances, rather than quiet, passive haunting. Poltergeist activity tends to escalate, rarely staying at one intensity level for long, which is what makes the next clip so hard to shake. Earlier that same day, at 5 p.m., he begins to hear something else, a faint humming sound somewhere in the house. For just a moment, the glass lid of the machine reflects the face of a woman, dark hair, eyes closed, still, before the camera jerks away in absolute panic. When he works up the courage to go back and check, the woman is gone. What the camera does find, at the bottom of the drum through the glass lid, is a small, pale doll with dark hair, lying inside the empty machine. And then, as if the sequence of events wasn't already enough, there's laughter, as if whatever is behind these events is aware and entertained. So a bag moving on its own, a closet that seems occupied one moment and empty the next, and a woman's face appearing in glass, all in the same house. What do you make of that? Now in this next clip, a man is out walking a wooded trail during the day, bright sunlight filtering through the trees, a quiet path, nothing about it that should put you on edge. Suddenly something stops him, a rabbit. Sitting completely still in the middle of the dirt path, he found it strange enough to start recording, and then he noticed something else. The woods had gone completely silent. No birds, no rustling, nothing. That kind of silence, according to people who spend time in dense forest, is never a good sign. Before he knew it, this happened. Watch. A loud, high-pitched wailing erupts from the trees to his left. Not quite an animal, not quite human, somewhere deeply unsettling in between. He runs immediately, the camera catching nothing but blurred ground and frantic footsteps. There's a saying often repeated by those who spend time deep in the wilderness, that there are things in the woods older and more powerful than we can fully understand. Things that don't always reveal themselves directly, but instead use sound, mimicry, or subtle behavior to draw people closer. After he posted the video, reactions were divided in a way that only made the situation more unsettling, because while some people believed it could have been a real person in danger, someone genuinely calling for help and not receiving it because fear took over, others argued the exact opposite, saying that responding to something like that, especially in an isolated area, is one of the most common ways people get lured into dangerous situations, whether by other humans or something far less explainable. And that's where the question becomes personal, because in a moment like that, where fear and instinct collide with the possibility of someone needing help, what would you have done? This next video comes from a man who's been dealing with something persistent inside his home. Whatever it is, it doesn't seem to care what time it is, and it especially doesn't seem to care that he's trying to sleep. The first clip was recorded at around 3:33 a.m. when he woke up to a strange sound coming from somewhere in the room. He grabbed his phone, still half asleep, and decided to go find the source himself. Watch.
Okay. This goddamn sound is still going. Let me check it out. Maybe I can catch it on video or something. Where are you, damn raccoons?
As he approaches the door and opens it, the sound stops instantly, cutting off in a way that feels too precise to be random. And in that moment, still half asleep, he convinces himself it must have been something ordinary, maybe a raccoon or some kind of animal moving around outside or within the walls, something explainable, something he doesn't have to think too deeply about. But that explanation doesn't hold for long, because not long after, while he's away at work, he receives a notification from his home security camera, alerting him that motion has been detected inside the house, which immediately raises concern, since no one is supposed to be there at that time. When he checks the footage, this is what he sees. The frame appears empty at first, no visible intruder, no movement that can be easily identified, but then the door opens in a way that suggests something is on the other side. And even though nothing can be seen, the audio tells a different story. Sounds of movement inside the space, as if someone or something is moving around freely within the house. And then the door closes itself. At that point, the earlier explanation of a raccoon no longer fits, not with the timing, not with the force, and certainly not with the sequence of events captured on camera. Some would interpret this as a classic case of an intelligent presence, rather than a residual one, something aware of its surroundings, capable of interacting with physical objects, and possibly even reacting to the absence of the homeowner, choosing moments when the house is empty to move more freely. And what makes it more unsettling is the progression, starting with subtle sounds that can be dismissed, then moving into clear physical interaction that becomes much harder to ignore, almost as if whatever is behind it is becoming more confident over time, with no clear explanation, no confirmation of what was actually inside that whorehouse, and no updates that clarify whether the activity continued or stopped. This situation remains unresolved, leaving more questions than answers behind. This next clip was captured inside a fast food restaurant, an ordinary, well-lit space where someone was filming a co-worker named Fran during what looked like a completely normal shift. The person holding the phone calls out to her. Fran turns around smiling, and nothing about the moment seems unusual at all. But this video resurfaced as a Snapchat memory, and when the filmer watched it back, she noticed something she'd completely missed the first time. Watch her. Near the counter, right by the trash receptacle, something can be seen in the frame, a shape that, when you focus on it, starts to resemble a face, positioned in a way that makes it look like it's staring directly outward. What makes this detail even more unsettling is the backstory tied to the location itself. Before it became a restaurant, the building reportedly went through multiple uses over the years, including a period where it sat abandoned after a fire incident that, according to local accounts, didn't just damage the structure, but was linked to an accident that took place inside. While official records remain unclear, stories from former workers and nearby residents suggest that after reopening, employees occasionally reported strange occurrences, unexplained reflections in metal surfaces, figures caught briefly in peripheral vision, and the unsettling feeling of being watched even during busy hours. Now, if there's even a chance that something is there, quietly watching, unnoticed, during everyday moments, then it raises a bigger question about how much we miss simply because we're not looking closely enough. We can only hope this is enough to make the owners of the space take a closer look before something like this stops being so easy to dismiss. The following video is about a man who finally decided to install cameras throughout his home because the strange activity had escalated to a point he could no longer ignore. Doors were slamming on their own, objects scattered across floors, and sometimes entire shelves seemed to empty themselves. He believed a ghost, or something far more malevolent, was roaming the house, leaving no corner untouched. Watch. A door slams like something is pushing it, testing boundaries, or even warning him. Another day, the camera captures this. Items perched neatly on shelves suddenly topple, as if yanked down by invisible hands. It looks deliberate, angry, and chaotic. Some speculate the presence may be trying to assert control over the space, sending a message, marking territory, or punishing intrusions. Others fear it's a form of intimidation, testing whether he'll stay, testing whether he's vulnerable. The randomness, the force, the sheer unpredictability makes it terrifying. A presence that's not just watching, but acting. He's determined to stay and figure out what's really going on. But the question is, if something can move, manipulate, and terrify this much, is staying a brave choice or a dangerous one? You be the judge.